What's going on, everybody?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Back again.
Yes, sir. This is Real Talk,
Man Talk.
This show is very special and different.
Very
Obviously, we
special.
brought our ladies to the show, and my lady is Miss Khadijah Pernell.
Hello.
And this is my beautiful wife, Cheri S. Brown.
Clap it up for her. Clap it up for her. There we go.
Yes, she is. So, Vic, man, what we here for? What we talking about?
We're here because within 48 hours, I will be a married man to this lovely, beautiful woman. This show is pretty much titled Real Talk, Bay Talk. We're going to talk about Keaton's marriage, obviously. We want to talk about my engagement, me being engaged, and me dating Khadijah. If anyone don't know, I met Khadijah online on Twitter, pretty much via YouTube, really on this show, Real Talk, Man Talk. First time we're really interacting with Khadijah was on this show. So this show is very, very special because it's how I met my future wife. So we're going to talk and get in depth about that later. So
we're doing how we met our boo stories?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I guess I'll go.
Go ahead, man.
Well, pretty much, I always thought she was cute. And so from back in the day, our churches used to fellowship, and I called her a little light-skinned girl from the Greater Bethel Choir because I didn't know her name. And so one day, God so fixed it that I preached at her church, and there she was. A couple months later, we start dating, and 2 years now, we've been married a year. It's 2 years ago when we first started dating, and here we are, married happily by God's grace.
Hey. Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
Shoulder roll.
Amen.
Yeah. Like I said, I met Khadijah online through Twitter. I really met her somewhat through Keaton and my friend Stephanie. Just to give a quick overview, Stephanie and Keaton, they both, Keaton and Stephanie, we all went to University of South Florida. We met each other through Twitter. We all was just heavily active tweeters. Used to tweet funny stuff all the time. Used to come across each other paths and retweets and likes and all this and that. So pretty much one day we all just followed each other, and from there we kind of gained a bond with that because we all lived in the same city, all went to the same school, and somehow Keaton and Stephanie were friends with Khadijah, so they would retweet Khadijah all the time. And Keaton and Stephanie, they both fools and they both crazy, so they would retweet funny stuff from Khadijah. I'm like, wow, this girl really funny, I might as well follow her. Make a long story short, I think when me and Keaton started doing Real Talk Man Talk, maybe like within our second or third episode, we asked our followers like, hey, who want to do Real Talk Man Talk? Real Talk Man Talk with us. We wanted a female co-host. Khadijah volunteered.
Brave soul.
Yeah, brave soul. Inbox was jumping too.
Go back to that episode almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The friend zone. Yeah. And you'll see where it all started.
Yeah, go all the way back. But Khadijah volunteered to do that episode, and she did a really good job. Great feedback from our audience and whatnot, and we wanted to keep her in close contact. So we can have I sure did.
The church say.
It went down the DM. It did. It did. And just over those years, we somewhat kept in communication and contact through Twitter. And over the years, I ended up actually getting a girlfriend. Getting a girlfriend. And during that time, I wasn't like keeping my eye on Khadijah or anything like that, but it was just crazy how at the end of that breakup, I legitimately started a friendship with Khadijah. It was just based off, brothers and sisters in Christ. Okay, I know you're going through this, I'm going through this, let's help each other out, be there for one another. So, we would call and text each other. Next thing you know, we started finding out, we have a lot of things we like mutual interests or whatnot. Exchange phone numbers, and feelings grew. I forget what day it was. I came out on the plane to meet her family and her. Yeah, March 21st, 2015. And from there, it was a wrap. Within the first day, I knew I wanted her to be my wife. I wanted her to be Miss Campbell, and that was history. That was that. Everything has been great. God has been gracious so far, and God has been able to look out for us for as travel arrangements. Because I live in Florida, and she lives here in Virginia. But Monday, 2 days from now, well, about 3 days from now, she will be a resident of Florida. I can't wait.
So how about this? Let's let the ladies talk. Let's hear our story from their perspective. How about that?
The floor is yours.
We can start with
Brown. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay, we can do that. Well,
as my husband mentioned, he had his eye on me since we were children. However, I didn't realize he existed until we were well into adulthood. By this time, he was already a preacher. He preached revival at my church. I was in another relationship, but I did acknowledge that he was good looking, and I was actually trying to hook my friends up with him. I'm like, oh, look at this man of God, he's cute. You know, he seemed like he know what he's talking about. He's God-fearing. You know, I need to go ahead and get with him. Luckily, they did not. My relationship fell away, and we made contact with each other on Facebook, and it just went from a Christian platonic type of conversation into a personal conversation, and here we are 2 years later. So that's how we met from my perspective.
Oh. AKA my dog put a ring on it. He put a ring on
it.
I did that.
Yeah, you did.
I guess it's my turn.
Future Mrs. Campbell.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, he already told you guys that we met on Twitter. And we had the Keaton and Stephanie as mutual friends, and it was funny because actually after the very first Real Talk Man Talk episode that I did with them, I had a couple friends watching, and they all were like, "Oh my gosh, I think that Vic likes you," and I was like, "He doesn't even know me. Like, there's no way." I was in major denial. I was like, "There's no way that he likes me at all." And so I actually did another Real Talk Man Talk episode with them. Yeah, the women, what was that, Kingdom Woman?
Yeah,
Kingdom Woman. Watch that one as well.
Yeah. That was a good one.
That was a good one. And by that time, if I'm not mistaken, Vic was actually in a relationship. And I told my friends, I was like, "See, I told you guys, like, he didn't like me. Like, you guys were just looking too far into it or whatnot." And so that was 2013, July of 2014. I started noticing, like, Vic, if anyone knows Vic, they know that he's very petty, he's very funny. But, you know, he tweets the word and all that stuff like that. And so, yeah, really, but he's always, like, really funny and really petty, but I started noticing, like, really deep and dark, like, tweets. And I was like, okay, this doesn't sound like Vic. I don't know what's going on, which, you know, you can only discern so much through 140 characters. But I took it upon myself to kind of reach out, because if I see someone and I feel like, you know, we're friends, even if it's online, I'll reach out and actually like, "Hey, is everything okay? Is there anything I need to pray for?" And he didn't say like what was going on with him, but I guess just the fact that I reached out was okay. And then he kind of went missing. He went MIA off of Twitter, and so we were Facebook friends. And so I hit him up there because I was like, "Is everything okay? You know, this is kind of like you." And so he's like, "Yeah, I was just taking a break from Twitter." He got back on Twitter, and he sent me his number in my DM, and he was like, "Hey, if I ever go missing again, you know, here's my number. You can check up on me." I was like, "Okay." So we started.
I threw that bait. She
Slide Ministries never failed.
And it didn't, clearly.
Yeah.
But so we started texting, and I mean, it wasn't like we grew a friendship first, because at the time I had just left, or I was contemplating leaving my old church, and I needed someone to talk to who was unbiased about the situation, who didn't know, you know, who could give me like sound advice about, you know, what to do, you know. And so we were just talking about that. So we were both like in our broken places at the time that we befriended each other, and we kind of like, the Lord just kind of like used that area of, you know, brokenness to heal us both and to mend a friendship. But through that friendship, we did start to catch feelings for one another. And so, you know, he he actually, my mentor told me, because I guess she could tell that I was getting like wrapped up in like, I started feeling things for him, and he wasn't saying anything. And if anyone knows me, I'm not putting myself out there. I feel like I don't have to. So I think like a couple days before Thanksgiving, 2014, he actually told me, like, you're not in my friend zone. We had the whole conversation. And then in December, he told me for the very first time that he loved me. And then, so that was our official like start, but we kind of like kept it under wraps. We told like our immediate like family members and close friends, but we didn't like publicize our relationship until March when he first came here to meet my family and stuff. So, and everything has been, you know, clearly, I mean, we're getting married in a couple days. So.
Everything must everything must went pretty good. So how about this? How about this, y'all? Vic and KK. Kind of walk us through how was just the initial getting to know you phase, and some call it dating, some call it courting, and like how did y'all know? Okay, we definitely want to spend our lives with each other.
Well, from the beginning, it was really, really, really like innocent. Like, it was one of those things where you know how you have like you spy somebody that's like real fine or whatever, and your mission each day is to contact that person and hit them up. Man, me and Khadijah literally like sometimes would text each other throughout the day, and we may not say anything to each other maybe for the next 2 or 3 days. But the little times then that we did text, because we text before we actually call each other, and we called each other before we FaceTime each other. So yeah, it's levels to this, you know, racks on racks on racks. Anyways, we would text each other, and our conversation was pretty cool. It was like, you know, hey, how you doing? How was your day? You know, what you up to? Doing this and that, blah 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 blah. And then it was one of those things where I think some days just picked up, and I'm like, you know, hey, you know, like, just call me. We doing all this texting and this and that, you know. Just call me, and we would call each other, and you know, it wasn't one of those, you know, strict restrictions where I wouldn't talk to her after 10 o'clock or whatnot. But I did have like a little limit, like we didn't talk like past
midnight.
Yeah, like anything past midnight, you know.
Well, there's a reason for that too, baby.
Because the flesh is weak.
No, because you were right.
Okay, so I'm a teacher, so I fall asleep like 9:30 religiously every day. So it was she would never hear anything from me at 11 o'clock. That's where it really all started, because we would have somewhat like very good conversations. Unfortunately, around my bedtime. So she got tired of me falling asleep during text messages, this and that. So we'll call each other, and then, you know, I still fall asleep somewhere on the phone. And pretty much, you know, just during, like, while we conversing, we just find interests like that we like there, like music, even preaching styles, you know, what we like in the church or this and that. And it was a while till we actually started listing what we like or what we wanted to find in a person of the opposite sex or whatnot. So when she kind of threw those clues out there, I was like, checklist, check. Okay, I feel like I'm good to go. But before I told her I love her and all this and that, I really prayed about the situation, consulted God, because like Khadijah said, we actually met each other in a very dark time of her lives. You know, she was leaving her church, well, pretty much, you know, church hurt, and I was, you know, going through a very, you know, difficult transition in my life. It is a very, very dark moment, dark time. But within that time, God gave me Khadijah, and that was just like fresh air. Like, it was just a light shining in my darkness. So it was really refreshing and really great. It actually came kind of out of nowhere, because during the previous relationship that I was in, I somewhat had it in my mind programmed that the next female that I date or talk to, I'm going to have this wall up. You know, it's going to be very hard for somebody to get to know me and whatnot. And when I met Khadijah, I mean, that wall literally felt just like this. like the wall of Jericho, it just crumbled down. Somebody just tapped it with a straw and it fell down. I just felt that Khadijah was just such a good person. Like when she told me what she used to do for the church, I'm like, oh yeah, this is something that a man of God would love. Somebody who's dedicated not to just God but to authority or whatnot. And yeah, but anyways, honey, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, for me, it's pretty much a lot of what he said, but it was more so like I never met an individual where like we had so much in common, but at the same time, like I could freely be myself around him with like no judgment, and I loved that, you know, the aspect of like he literally accepted me for who I was, you know, and all of my quirky and weirdness and awkward moments, you know what I'm saying? Like he didn't judge me about it or anything like that. He didn't never, you know, in the course of our friendship, he never even tried to like tame that. You know, he just accepted that that's who I was. And so that in itself was like, okay, like this is new. You know, like I've never met a man that, you know, loves me or likes me rather for me, you know, or not likes me for who they think that I can be, but they're accepting who I am now. You know, so that was a lot. And then I never like came in contact with a guy who I had like a lot of the same interests in, like he said, music and, you know, just arts and stuff like that. Like it was so refreshing talking to Vic, and I was like, we were on the phone, I was just like, you know, I could see you being like my best male friend. I didn't think anything of it, you know, like as far as relationship were concerned or anything like that. I was just genuinely a friendship, you know. But the crazy thing is I was in a relationship where, you know, we weren't friends. It was kind of like we had like a mutual interest in each other. And it didn't work out because I want to say like we weren't friends. So the thing that I had always prayed for was like, you know, Lord, whenever the time comes, I would like for there to be a friendship, you know, foundation first before we enter into a relationship. But as a woman, you know, we see a good looking guy and automatically our minds just go, you know, oh, this is, you know, this has to be bae, you know? So when you already have that mentality, you don't give a chance to set the foundation of a friendship, you know? So it was like when we were both in our broken places and we couldn't even comprehend right now, like, our relationship, and then like where he was going through, and you know, he told me like, you know, the next woman I date, you know what I'm saying, like I'm gonna have this wall with her, and I was like, yo, you wrong for that. You know, like I was like, she's not any of your exes, so you can't, you know, carry her like that. And I was like, well, I don't know who she is, but I'm gonna be praying for her because she got a lot to deal with. This is how I was talking to him, you know, not knowing that it was me, you know. And I mean, like I said, all of my close friends, they were telling me like, oh, you know, I think you guys are going to end up together. And I was imagining now, I was like, honey is too broken. Like, he got, you know, cliche church girl, he got a lot to work on before he can ever think about getting in a relationship with anybody. And I'm not even entertaining that, you know. And so, like, when it happened, it was just like, wow, this is it. And I mean, we definitely struggled in the beginning with just all of that, you know, because I mean, there was times where I was just like, he's too good to be true. You know, like he literally, and we would never talk like, well, we would never have conversations, and I would never tell him like intentionally like, oh, this is what I'm looking for in a man. You know what I'm saying? Just to see like if he would turn around and say, you know, like, oh yeah, that's me, you know, or try to change who he was, because I wanted what, you know, I prayed for in my husband to be genuine. You know, I didn't want to marry a man and he presented all these things to me, and then, you know, after the wedding, like, boom, that's all gone because that wasn't him.
So what you're saying is you use wisdom.
Yeah, I had to, you know, because I've seen it work against a lot of women and a lot of men, you know. So, but it literally, like, he literally on, and I didn't have a checklist. I didn't believe in those. Not saying there's anything wrong with those, but I made a mental checklist of like the things that I wanted in a husband, you know, and he just kind of fit that mold. And then, I mean, like, just over time, like, God just softened my heart towards him and just awakened my eyes, you know, and I was just like, oh, he's so this and he's so that, you know. And as my parents said, you know, I was up keying it. And so, I mean, and I think the test was, like, one of the things that I loved was that, you know, like I said, we started our relationship in December, but Vic was very intentional on coming and, you know, asking my dad for permission to start the actual relationship before, you know, we went public with anything. And my dad was really big on that. At first, when I was younger, I used to think it was so stupid, but as I got older and wisdom started to, partake inside of me, I was like, that's very important. So to hear him come and tell me, like, I want to be in a relationship with you. I want us to go public with things, but I'm not doing any of that until I talk to your dad. And then for him to come and meet my family and everybody treated him like, they had known him, I was like, this is it.
Yeah,
Like,
one of the reasons why I wanted to do that so her father and family would know that she's not getting catfish.
right.
Because when you tell people that, even though like online dating is more common now than just meeting somebody like person to person in the club or store anywhere. I know that sounds weird, but that just society now. Like meeting somebody online is like the hot thing now. It's cool. It's normal now. A couple of years ago, somebody told you like, "Oh yeah, I met somebody on MySpace." You get laughed at. Real cool.
On MySpace,
Yeah.
you're supposed to get laughed at.
Yeah, that is true. You're right, bro. But I wanted to make sure that her family had assurance that she was going to be okay. Let her family know that like, yes, I am a real person, and I want to just meet her parents, and obviously ask her father for permission to date her and possibly marry her if I wanted to. But obviously I do, because
And you got permission for both of those in the same day.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. It was very awkward. I was like, Mrs. Purnell, is it okay? I can date your daughter and marry her. But of course he said yes. But I just do that out of respect, for the fathers. That's not really common these days, and a lot of girls or just people these days not even that close with their fathers to get like permission to date other people. But like I said, I want to not really. Okay, I'll be real with y'all. I really wanted to like blow off. Like I really wanted to show her family like I was that real deal. Like she know what she was getting into. Like she getting a man that's about his business and he knows exactly what he wants. Yeah, exactly. So when I was able to do that, like people had no choice but to gain respect for me, even though like I don't really ask for respect, but I was able to gain some on the day that I met her because I told her parents like, this is who I am, this is what I want, and your daughter is is it, is it, and we may get to that later, but like I said earlier, the first day I met Khadijah, I knew I just wanted her. Like the first time she like made my plate was like, oh my gosh. Like, I never had like I never ever like don't get me wrong.
It did that.
But
I have to give up my ting for my ring,
right,
man.
But like looking back at it now, it's funny. But looking back at it now, that was just one of the characteristics of her being a good servant. Was that like she just volunteered, asking me like, babe, you want me to make your plate? I'm like, yeah. I literally didn't know what to do because I've been so independent my whole life. So when she came up to me in front of her people and like, babe, I'm making your plate. I was like, oh, I literally went crazy, but in a good way.
So Vic, you would say in U2K, for y'all, it was kind of a process.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It had to be. I mean, because of the distance, for one.
Oh yeah.
And then, I mean, like I said, just the things that we were things that we were dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
It took time.
Yeah, because what he was going through and what I was going through, we both had to find who we were at that time.
Right.
So we really didn't have time to be focusing on our next relationship or any relationship at all. It was just like I need to figure out who I am at this moment. I need to figure out what is my walk with Christ right now. So it was a process, and I mean it's still a process.
Right, and even during that time, like during that the stage I was at, I was honestly like I stopped going to church at the time, and I needed help and wanted help.
For you.
Oh yeah, I know, crazy because I be in somebody's church faithfully on Sundays, but I was going through so much at that time. Not trying to give any excuses, but the enemy I feel like was attacking me, and I got really complacent, staying home, YouTube ministries, just watching church online. Then it just something hit me one day. Like I know this is not right. I miss having the benefits of joining a church, having that being together with the church, that unionship. I miss it. And actually, Khadijah helped me find the church that I go to right now, which I'm a member of. Khadijah helped me find that. I think one day we was talking. She was like, "Oh, just go on YouTube, not YouTube. Just go on Google and type in a Reformed Baptist Church, whatever." And I found a Baptist church on the Sunday morning. I went there after I finished looking up everything, and it was cool. And to make a long story short, I'm a member now, so the church has been great. She's visited, and Lord willing, I know she's planning on being a member there one day. But of course, I'm not forcing her to be a member, because that's not genuine, but I want to, make sure that she feels at home.
So, for you guys, it took some months. So, Mrs. Brown, tell them about our situation, which I think will be a little unique.
Yeah, it was. Our situation was quite different. Once I mentioned before that we had started talking on Facebook, I was advertising, or not advertising, but just telling my friends that I was going to be starting a young adult Bible study. I had gotten to a point in my life where I was tired of playing church, meaning I was a full-fledged disciple on Sunday. I'm going to do praise team. I'll be at whatever meetings they need me to be at. I'm going to give my tithes. But Monday to Saturday night, or even sometimes Sunday night, I was in a totally different headspace. And I knew I wanted a deeper relationship with Christ. I knew that I had the ability to develop that, but I hadn't until that time wanted to put the effort into it. I was like one foot in the world, one foot in the church, and I hadn't made up my mind. So I made up my mind, decided to start a Bible study, and Keaton messaged me about it. And he was like, "Oh, I'm out of town. I'm sorry, I won't be able to attend." And I noticed that he was texting or messaging me on Facebook from Texas, and I was like, "Oh, why are you in Texas? I thought you lived here." And he was like, "Oh, I'm here for my cousin's funeral." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Was he saved?" And even now, looking back, I don't ask that question readily to people. That could be a very touchy subject. It almost seems inappropriate, but for some reason, when I asked it to him, it didn't seem that way. I was genuinely concerned, and I knew at that point that he was a minister, so I guess I just knew he would take it in the way that I meant it. But he claims from that point forward, he knew that this was going in a different direction. I guess that question redirected his intentions with me. But we continued to message back and forth. I actually remember being at Chili's with my sister, and she was like, "Who are you on the phone with? You can't even concentrate on what's going on. You're not even paying attention to my conversation. You're not even eating your food. Who is that?" And at this point, I had only been separated from my ex for 11 days or something like that, something crazy. I was totally not even in the market for a new relationship, but it was just so funny. I had months prior started praying for what I wanted in my husband, and I didn't know what form that was going to come in, but I just knew I didn't want to give up on what I wanted in my husband. I didn't have a checklist like Khadijah said, but I had like a mental note of the things that I wanted in my husband, and some things verbatim Keaton would just verbalize, and this was very private conversation between me and God, and he would say exactly what I had told God I wanted in my husband, and it was just like a light switch. I've dated, I've been in relationships before, and I had never seriously considered anybody I dated like to be my husband. It was always maybe in the future, maybe they'll turn into this person, maybe they'll change. But he started saying these things, and I think we were 3 days in, and I remember telling my best friend Ebony, I said, "Ebony, I think I just met my husband." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I hate you, I believe you. I know this is your husband. It just sounds so anyway, that's how quickly it went. I knew 3 days in that was my husband, and I would kind of slip little things out, and he would slip little things out, and I think we were both thinking it at the same time, but maybe afraid to verbalize it. But literally within, I don't know,
Days,
maybe a week, we had already. Did we commit by that time? I don't remember, but it just went so fast. It went from, I feel like we were already on the road to commitment before we even exchanged numbers, almost. Like, the conversations were going so well and so different than I had ever experienced before. And then we started to text, and then we called, and then it just progressed from there so fast. I think we got married. Well, I know we got married a year almost to the date of when we first started talking. So we started planning our wedding
Before we were engaged.
Before we were engaged, and we were, we literally were looking at venues before he had even proposed because we already knew the timeline. I just didn't know when he was going to propose. It was very different.
I would not advise it.
I wouldn't advise it either. It worked out for us just fine. Like it just, we really just were being led by the Spirit because if my friend was telling me this story on the opposite side, I would be like, "Are you crazy? What are you doing? This is like the road to destruction. Just slow down." But it worked out for us. And like I said, and Keith said, we will not advise it. Please don't go out and try to like mimic this story. It's like 1 in 100 million chance of working, and we took that one. So, but yeah.
So Keaton, that because obviously, Miss Brown did share there were times where you felt that you and God have, thank you. You and God were talking, and He will reveal to you certain things, like Keaton would say, and that's how you felt like that was your husband, or whatever. Now, Keaton, at what point did you feel that God presented her to like be your wife, like during that time?
Well, honestly, man, like you said, I just messaged her. Because at the time, I was just starting a young adult ministry at my church. And my intent, honestly, was just to build a young adult network.
Right.
And to just build friendships, honestly. And we began talking, and somehow the conversation switched. She asked me about my cousin who had passed away.
Right.
And it just, there was a moment. But I was like, my whole world. I remember being in the hotel room in Fort Worth, Texas, and looking at my phone, and like my whole world froze. It's like, is God doing something here? I just sense His hand in it. There's just moments, I think, in your life where you just sense God's hand in something. It's just completely obvious. And it was one of those moments. And the conversation went on just about how she had her time in the world, and I had my time in the world, and we shared. She said I'm not funny now, but whatever I was saying was like making her
crack up. I don't know what happened.
I still make her crack up. She just don't know how to laugh. But whatever it was, it fit.
Right.
And it was, for us, it was an obvious fit instantly. The crazy thing is, she didn't say this, so I'll say it for her. We both admitted to each other that we weren't really each other's type, so to speak. If we can say this publicly because we've had to say this now, laughing several times. If we were to line each other up in a lineup, we probably would not have picked each other out.
Wow.
We just wouldn't, for reasons that we won't go into, but we just wouldn't pick each other out. And Cheri had a son with her previous relationship, and I told myself I was done. I dated a couple of single mothers, and it never worked well. It just never went well for me. Nothing against them personally, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try something different this time. And even then, it just worked perfectly. And the moment I met Abram, it was like I've always known him, and we have a very close relationship. Sometimes I have to get that, but we have a very close relationship. But even things like that, God just calls to work.
Yeah.
And I think for her, I'm sure that was a great anxiety. How me and Abram would work together.
That was even more affirmation right there, because I had never dated as a single mother, and so when we went on our first little family date to Steak and Shake
on my lunch break,
on his lunch break, and it's almost like they developed their whole little relationship immediately. It's like I wasn't even at the table; they just bonded, and it was just such a relief because all of this tension and anxiety had built up on how was this going to go. I was already starting to fall in love with him, so if this didn't go well, Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because that's what I want to get to, because real talk, man talk. We dive deep into stuff that we normally don't hear behind the pulpits or sometimes even in the streets. Now, obviously, you said that you had a son previous to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
How, at what time, when you saw Keegan and Abram, that's his name, right?
Yes.
When they established that, pretty much like that father and son connection before y'all got married, at what point was you saying to yourself, like, Lord, I pray this goes all the way? Because obviously you think about if those two would have disconnected, how hurt that little boy would have been.
Yes. Funny you mentioned that. In fact, I think that was a big deciding factor on why we met at Steak and Shake. Feelings wise and signs wise, it seemed to be going so quickly, but I had to take into consideration that he wasn't even 2 yet, so a 1.5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be starting a process of introducing men into his life that weren't going to be around permanently. So I think we agreed to meet at Steak and Shake because I wanted to introduce him in a public place that wasn't in his comfort zone, in my son's comfort zone, just in case something didn't work out, we could go ahead. Because if it doesn't work with my son, it wasn't going to work.
Right.
And luckily, that just went as well as could be expected. So at that point in our developing relationship, I already felt something serious coming. I felt marriage was coming. So time-wise, I don't even remember how soon that was. Probably a month in or something. And normally, I have even probably said out of my own mouth, oh, I would never have a man around my kids before this amount of time, and that was way before. But seeing as how I felt this was really going somewhere quickly in our situation, It was kind of like an exception.
I feel like in both our relationships, it sounds like we had these standards of what our time would be, and then God was just like, haha, no.
Right.
It's a testimony of our time is not God's time.
And our person isn't necessarily God's person.
Yeah, we can come up with our standards or our expectations of what, we expect to happen when and where, but it's just like, if God is sovereign, so he can shake that thing up anyway that he feels fit.
Oh, you trying to preach, boo?
Yeah, I knew, like Cheri said, within days. Like I think I may even told Vic that I think I'm married this girl. I told my closest friends wanted to be my groomsmen ultimately, and the whole thing was crazy. And really, all this is well and good. I love my wife. I'm happily married to her. But the real big picture, I don't think we always see is it's not really about me and Cheri. It's not about Vic and Khadijah. It's really about us and God.
Exactly.
And so what I had to do is I had to trust God that all my fears, my insecurities of not being able to be vulnerable and not being able to just all the mess and baggage. We all have baggage, right? I think that's one thing we kind of agree on, right?
Oh yeah.
And that I had to trust God past my baggage. And I had to trust his sovereignty past my baggage. Cheri had to trust God past her baggage. Kay had to trust God past her baggage. Vic had to trust God past his baggage. And I think if we probably say one thing, is just trust God, because it's never going to be ideal. Ideal doesn't exist. Yeah. And there's always going to be things that you're just going to have to endure.
Yeah.
Right. I think because I'm going to talking to this wise people, wise couples. I'm learning that marriage is not about me. It's not about her. Ultimately, all the time, 24/7, it's about God. I read a book that said when two sinners say I do, and that was a very big eye opener. Well, me and Khadijah read that together actually, and pretty much not trying to be funny, or not trying to be too churchy, but it's pretty like when marriage is just really two sinners coming together. So it's all about grace, forgiveness, and the biggest word ever, sanctification. Dying to yourself. That's the biggest part of marriage, right? Because it's a covenant that we're trying to keep, and it has nothing to do about us. It has to do with God. Go ahead, Keegan.
So since you introduced that can of worms. Let's go ahead and open it up. So we'll pitch it to y'all first. So y'all are about to get married in less than 48 hours. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And so y'all have been going together well over a year now, right? A year, close to a year and a half, if anything.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
A year and 3 months.
Yeah.
Almost.
Okay. And even if you count December, even longer than that.
Right.
So, how has it been dying to yourself from December and March, that whole time period, right? Mm-hmm. And then March to around October-ish when you proposed, and then October until then.
I'm sorry. I've been going first for the longest. Go ahead, honey.
Aww. There you
I
go.
think he's so sweet.
I just know what to say. I know what to say.
He's like, I'm gonna let her go so she can spill, but nah. It's okay. So I literally, like, I think a couple weeks ago, I had a conversation with a friend who's currently engaged, and we were talking about how I feel like church-wise, everyone prepares you for, like, your singleness. They tell you things that you can get by as far as, like, singlehood is concerned, and then we prepare you for marriage. But no one really prepares you for the engagement stage. And that's when a lot of, like, the dying to your flesh actually comes up, because you're just like, you're two people about to become one, but you're not one yet. But you still have to function with the mentality of, I have to think about him instead of just me now. When you're just dating, it can be more so just about you. Of course you throw a little him in there to be sweet, or, he'll think about like me. Right. Yeah. When you feel like it. But when you're in a engagement, which is the next step, which is supposed to be the next step to marriage, it's no longer just about you and what it is that you want. You know what I'm saying? Now you have to think, like, what is it that he wants? You know what I'm saying? Or what would make him happy, and vice versa. And that could be very, 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 like,
yeah.
I
look at it view, like, I think each step that you get to, like, for, like, the meeting stage and the proposal stage, and during that time, like, you get to know that person a little bit better. And once you start getting a little bit more comfortable with somebody, you somewhat start saying things that you didn't say before you guys first dated.
Right. Let me just say, since we've gotten engaged, I've had to apologize a lot, because my mouth can be just, and I mean, and it's one of those things where I've started, like, prior to me and Vic getting married, I practiced a lot of, if I have something to say and it can come off the wrong way, like, maybe I should wait on it, maybe I should pray on it a little bit before, we talk. And we do a really good job at that. But it's the moments where, so, like, he'll do something, right? He'll do something that just stresses me out and makes me mad. And Vic, he can tell. I mean, even though we've been long distance our whole entire relationship, we spent, not what people would deem a lot of time with one another in person to person, but he still knows me, so he can tell when, he said something and I've gotten quiet, or he says something, I go, and then he'll go, well, baby, how do you feel about it? I'm like, no, because I'm trying to be nice, so I'm like, no. And then he'll pressure, because he's very concerned. He's a very concerned individual, he's very caring, and, he's my gentle giant. I say that for more, and he's very patient with me. But, he'll say stuff, or he'll ask the question, and I'm like, well, I don't really feel like talking about it right now. So then that just creates an awkward barrier, because I've set up that wall of, well, you done made me mad, I don't want to talk about it. But now he's mad, so you have to talk about it. And I'll talk about it, but I don't really think about what I say, or I think about what I say, but I don't think about the tone in which I say it. Yeah. So I'll say something, and then, like, I'll listen to what I said, and I'm like, oh, babe, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, do you forgive me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I've apologized so much during the engagement stage.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things within that, like, comes with learning how to take correction or mistake. But at the same time, you have to be willing to give proper, I guess, correction.
Yeah.
Because I don't care like how much you say this or say that. People can discern if it's love or not by how you direct your tone or the choice of words you use.
Mm-hmm.
So from the past couple of months, I really have to learn to be gentle with Khadijah, not just because she's a female, she's a woman, but if I want to get a proper response back, I have to give it first to receive it.
That's a word.
That's a message right
there.
there.
That just goes back to, we had done before Vic before Vic proposed to me, we had done what we call like a premarital counseling session with his pastor.
Sure did.
I went to Florida. We set up a session with his pastor, and one of the things that I'll never forget that he told us was, women want love, but men want respect. Yeah. And so you're not going to get respect, husbands, if you don't love your wife. You know what I'm saying? And wives, you're not going to get the love that you want unless you respect, And so he told us, he was like, even those moments where she's acting a plumb fool, you still love her. Because she'll realize, or I'll realize, like, daggone, he's doing so much to show me so much love, and I'm really just acting, crazy right now. I need to get myself together. And in turn, I'll respect him and vice versa.
Yeah.
So we've had a tremendous amount of, like, that being shown, like, respect, love and respect, love and respect.
So, Mrs. Brown.
From which time?
We have well, we have a little more,
Yeah, you have a little bit more experience.
A little bit more. So however much you feel comfortable with sharing. Maybe particularly about marriage, since they kind of gave the engagement perspective.
I think you guys, we had a similar experience during our engagement time. Marriage, I praise God for how much we have grown, how much we have changed, how much we have compromised for each other. But I still go back to say, and I'm glad you guys have done so much premarital and pre-premarital counseling. We did our premarital counseling, and we listened to series about marriage to prepare couples for marriage. And I think our expectations of each other were reasonable. Not dead on. Right. Not dead on. I don't even think our expectations of ourselves were as reasonable as our expectations of each other were. That helped a lot. I went in not thinking it was going to be horrible, but we had such realistic expectations that I was kind of scared. I kind of went to the other end of the spectrum, like, this is going to be horrible. Like, I'm just going to have to forbear everything all the time. And he was so willing to compromise, and I was more willing to compromise than I thought I would have inside of me, that it just worked. Now, we're not perfect, but we, over the last year and a few months, have learned each other. We've learned what ticks each other off. We've learned what the other expects. So when we take the time to go out of our way to try to present the other person with that, it just kind of prevents fights and, just tempers from building up. So if I compare to a year ago, I think we're doing pretty well now. We're not experts. We've only been married, 15 months or something like that. So I'm not trying to show y'all the success to a happy marriage for life. But it just really surprises me how much we've grown in that time period. And I will say if you are already in a marriage, then all you can do is pray for your spouse. But if you are not, you really need to be equally yoked. And I can't express how much I look back at my life and just thank God that I didn't end up committing my life to someone who didn't deserve it. Because I will say Keaton has been a godsend. Honestly, he really takes the role as a husband seriously.
My dog.
And when life,
he's like,
he
not
really
yet,
does.
bro.
And he's not perfect, but when it's up to one of us to apologize, I will say 9 times out of 10 it's him that does it first. When it's up to one of us to get up out of the bed when it's cold and go downstairs and turn the light off, or to do something that really neither one of us wants to do, 9 times out of 10, it's him to do it first. If he can do something to help me with the household, he offers to do that. And even though he may not think I realize how much he does that or appreciate how much he gives, him doing that first just opens up the door for me to respect him, as you were talking about. What the man expects is respect, and what the woman expects is love and needs is love.
Right.
So when he does these little small things, that's me seeing him love me. And when I respond to the things that he does, that's me respecting him. So if you just keep that cycle going, like, it's almost impossible to get burnt out, because no one person is giving all the time. But if you're not married and you enter into someone that's not willing to be giving all the time, if you just have a giver and a taker, and you happen to be the giver,
somebody's gonna
you commit yourself to the taker, you just pray on. You really need to take seriously that commitment before you make it. But that's a whole different subject. So,
right.
Keaton, what can you say on that?
The husband is the lead servant. And the biggest hurdle I've not even voiced this to her, is my resistance to serve, and how I have to die to my desire to be served, and really initiate service. Because, again, not to be too churchy, but if my role then emulates Christ denied his right to be served as God and chose to be the servant. So then I have to deny my right to be served and choose to be the servant.
Walking heavy. You're walking heavy.
And for me, the battle with my selfishness is the greatest struggle. So I can't accept accolades because I know the battle I struggle with. And for anybody, and I always say this to Vic, anybody who wants to be a husband, choose to be the lead servant. Do not let her outserve you, because I heard Tony Evans say it this way: because if she's outserving you, she's outloving you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
And my parents had a wonderful message. God called my dad home to be with the Lord earlier this year, and he had stage 4 cancer. He had 2 types of cancer. Dad had chemo every week for usually 3 months spans, and then he'd be off for maybe 3 months, and then on for maybe 3 months. I would see or hear, because I lived in Tampa, and they lived in my hometown of Palmetto. He would do chemo. My mom is a kindergarten teacher. He would do chemo, and for anybody who has any familiarity with chemo completely wipes you out. Mm-hmm. And he would do chemo, and while she's at work, maybe not that first day, because that first day is pretty rough, but still within the week of first couple days, which is the hardest, getting chemo, sweeping the floors, cooking. And I figure if a man who has stage 4 cancer can do that for his wife, then I can. And I think I have had the great privilege of seeing him serve my whole life. And for me, that makes serving easy, because I've had serving modeled. And I would advise any person who wants to be married, get around some older married folks. I've been blessed. My oldest sister, she's been married now 14 years now. My parents, before my dad passed away, were married 41 years. My pastor has been married 35 years, something like that. So I have a lot of marital experience around me, and seeing that has helped me tremendously. But this really comes down to one thing: I have to choose to be the servant.
If I may add something on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm so glad that Keaton had relationships modeled for him to see growing up. one thing that our pastor told us during our premarital counseling was when he found out I was raised by a single mother, he kind of chuckled and was like, oh boy, you're going to have a time with her and her independence. And he didn't say it in a disrespectful way at all. He said it, he was just being real, which is what we needed to hear. And I, having been a single mother prior to getting with Keaton, and then being raised by a single mother and having a ton of single mothers in my family or divorced women, or, you know, it was very hard to model something that I hadn't really seen on a daily basis. I was used to, I don't want to say man bashing by any means, but I had my own job, I had my own house, I had my own car, I took care of my child, I went and ran my errands, I went to church and served. I did all that as an independent woman, and I was doing it alongside other independent women in my family. And so you kind of get this mentality of either a distrust for men because of past relationships, on top of the fact that you have this I don't need you type attitude because you have kind of managed to do it on your own. I will say, if you're watching and you're either a single woman or a single mother, but independent woman, you definitely need to start taking a look inside of yourself to see what it is about you that you could change to prepare yourself for a man that you're hoping that God sends to you. I did some of that prior to Keaton, but when I tell you that when we linked up, it brought out a lot within me that I didn't even know was there. A lot of daddy issues, a lot of ex issues, a lot of issues with just wanting to be the head, even though I claimed that I was ready to submit and, you know, submit to my husband and let him be the head of the household and put him first, only having God before him. When it was time to put that into action, I didn't know what that looked like per se. So I just want to make that aware to whomever may be watching in that same situation. You really need to pray on that and pray that God reveals to you what it is inside of you that needs to be taken out of you, and what it is lacking inside of you that He can instill in you. That was definitely, I think, and still is, an issue that we have been getting past. But my husband has been very patient in that, and I think he has realized the lack of example that I had in comparison to the example that he had. So it just worked out for us, but that was just the opposite end of the spectrum.
In other words, God is gracious.
Yeah.
You said it all to say, really.
Pretty much.
God is gracious. That's all.
Khadijah, you want to say anything before we wrap it up?
I would just, to piggyback on what Cheri said, I was partially raised with the single mother before my parents got married. But I was always raised around strong women. They always had men, but they all still had to do for themselves.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like that. I mean, you know, my grandmothers, you know, they always had, you know, husbands or men around, you know, but they all still felt the need to still do things for themselves. So I would say, like, just within my Christian walk, and then definitely the Lord has shown this even more, just being in, you know, almost covenant with Vic, the art of interdependency. You know, like, it's not just, I can't be solely independent, but I can't be just dependent on him. You know what I'm saying? He still needs a safe haven to lean on me, you know, for me to be there for him. And that's been a struggle within itself, because, like I said, I was raised where, you know, you want something done, you do it yourself. You know, You don't wait on anyone to do it for you. You just go do it, you know. Right. And so it was so funny, because the very first time we were going to spend time with one another, after he came to Virginia to spend time with my family, I was actually going to Florida. I went with him to Florida for Keaton and Cheri's wedding. And so it was funny, because, like, monthly up until the wedding, you know, we need to find me hotel reservations, stuff like that. And so Vic was like, you know, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. But for me,
that's like the worst thing to say.
Right. Well, it wasn't even that, because I was like, okay, you know, he's being a leader, but he was just moving so slow. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, Vic, like, if you don't do this, where am I going to stay? You know, like, I don't, you know, because at the time he was living with his roommate, Chip, you know, and I hadn't talked to his mother at all, so I didn't want him to just, you know, throw me off on her or anything like that. So I was like, I need somewhere to stay. So I think I got so frustrated, you know, I was like, don't worry about it, I'll do it myself. And he's like, Khadijah, can you please let me handle this? And he did. I mean, he took care of me, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had a whole king-size bed and a jacuzzi up in it just for me, you know, but he took care of it. But that was like the beginning of like just the Lord showing me like, I can't enter into a relationship thinking like I can do it all with him being the and calling him the head. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he's supposed to be the head, he's supposed to lead, I have to let him lead. Even if that means like him doing it on his time. Like, I just pray, well, Lord, could you help him I need the oil change, I want it now. Like,
girl, you got it. This is about to be a segment of real talk, woman talk. That's all.
So I've just been learning the art of interdependency, and this even from the distance. You know, the Lord's just been showing me that. So I am looking forward to seeing like how everything's gonna work. You know, after we're married and we're transitioning to the both of us to Florida and seeing how that whole, you know, thing leads. Because like I said, I've been working by myself and paying all my bills by myself since I was 18. You know. So going from that and now into like, you know, a 2-income household where I have to run everything past, you know, my husband, I'm just like, Lord.
Bless you,
Yeah.
Just be patient, brother. That's all I can say.
That's all I can do, man. But I think, honestly, everything boils down to Christ loves the church.
Yeah.
And that's how much I have to love Khadijah. If I want to, you know, if I want her to say I do less than 48 hours from now. But, you know, of course, she's seen that in me. And I'm very confident that I'm going to love her. I'm going to love her more than I love myself, obviously. But to be quite honest, I really don't count on people's downfall. But my parents are divorced. My mother been divorced for 10 plus years when she got remarried. My father actually encouraged me to be a better father than what he is. I saw him take my mother through hell and back, even though in my eyes, I don't think she deserved it, but everything's happened for a reason. God take us and bring us through certain situations for the greater good. I'm a total believer in that. Just how I was able to find Khadijah in the dark. You know, he brought light in my darkness. And I don't say that just for the heck of it. I really mean that. And just watching my father throughout the years made me realize and made me think that when I grow up or when I, you know, get married, I want to be better than he. And that's not to throw any shade or anything on him, because if you talk to him this day, he will say that, you know, I would want my son to be a better father than what I was. And just my goal and mission is to make sure that I'm the head of my family and I can support my family the best way I can, financially, emotionally, and all the other leads out there. out there. I really, 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 really want to try my best not to have a perfect marriage, but to have a great, awesome marriage. I hear a lot of people say like, well, you know, you guys going to go through this during courtship or dating and this and that, da 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 da. And to be transparent with everyone, this dating process with Khadijah has been so easy. Yes, we had a little bumps on the road, but it's been very easy and it's been very great. And I don't change it from nothing from the world. We've learned to enjoy every process that we shared together, where we was dating and an engagement now, and Lord willing, the marriage process. Everything has been great. My wise advice to couples out there, people out there, don't listen to the stereotypes. You can make your marriage, well, not your marriage, you can make your dateship, courtship, or whatever you want to call it, friendship, the best you can be. Don't listen to the outside people. And also, what I was about to say, I almost forgot. It's brain fart. I know. Oops. Just understand that there's not a question that the Bible can't answer. Like, for the bottom of my heart, everything falls down to love, 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 love. Okay? A lot of times we think that the Bible has this gray area where we think that the Bible can answer a question for us or don't have a solution for this. That's a big fat lie. because we've had marriage counseling. How many times? Maybe 5 or 6 times.
4.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I was
Well,
off.
the premarital counseling.
Well, that counts too. Okay, 4 times, and every session has been straight biblical about the man and the wife, God and the church. Okay, I don't know what they're whispering back there, but anyway.
They're
But-
talking about us.
Yeah, they is. This is about to turn into real talk, lady talk. But anyways,
They're gonna kick us off the show.
yeah, they pretty much is. They're gonna have their own show. But anyways, that's just what I wanted to share with y'all. Yes. Okay. Anyways, I appreciate y'all very, very much. Pray for me. Pray for them as well, because they need prayer too. Just because they married don't mean you stop praying. You continue to pray for them. Okay.
Pray for us, not just you.
I thought I said that.
No, you said pray for me, pray for them.
Oh, pray for her too.
Thank you.
Pray for us.
Pray for him again.
Right.
Yeah.
Way more than that.
Yeah. Covered me 2 times. Yeah. But any last recaps, anything?
Yeah. I'm gonna give y'all a sneak preview of what I'm gonna say Saturday. I've told you this before. I'll say it again. You can't do it. That sounds so counterintuitive, but it's the absolute God honest truth. Everything we've talked about, you cannot do it. But if the Spirit of Christ that raised him from the dead dwells in you, then nothing's impossible.
Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for tonight. Real Talk, Babe Talk. We appreciate y'all. If you liked it, please hashtag us, Real Talk, Man Talk, or shoot us a message or email through our Twitter account, which is @Real Talk Man Talk. We love y'all. God bless.
Peace.